Okay, just like with anything, the price of a mold inspection can widely vary. But when you're getting a quote for $500 and then you're getting another quote for $3,000, it really makes you wonder. So I'm here to set things straight. I'm here to give you a clear path to making an expert purchasing decision. So let's break it down. So we're gonna break down the costs into 4 different classes of mold inspector. Class 1 is gonna be your most economical choice, the cheapest ones out there. Class 4 is gonna be the high-level experts, the ones you really want on your team, even though sometimes we really can't afford them. They are there, they do exist. Now keep in mind, these price ranges may vary depending on the location, if there are travel fees. This is just a general rule just to get you started. So let's talk about Class 1. So for Class 1, you're probably looking at around $100 to $400 in mold inspection fees, and we don't even really like to call these guys mold inspectors because they don't really inspect. A lot of times they're just doing testing. True professionals know that testing methods all have limitations. And so what do? We rely on the visual observations. We rely on the inspection process. Unfortunately, in this price range, that's probably absent. And what they're gonna do is hand you the lab report that the lab gave them. You're not getting a written report most of the time, and you're certainly not gonna get recommendations. So this level of mold inspector, if we really wanna call them that, has a background usually in something like home inspections or general contracting, and they're just trying to increase their revenue. They want some more money coming in with different services. This is far from their specialty. So then the question remains, what is the use case for this class of mold inspector? Well, let's be fair here. Everybody in the market has a use case, right? But I will say this, that most expectations seem to fall short with this type of mold inspector, and they can be a drain of time and money. But if you're certain of what's going on in the house, what's causing it, what needs to be done, and you just need some cheap testing or documentation, maybe you're a tenant and you see the mold, it's clear as day, and the landlord says, that's not mold, that's mildew. Well, in that case, maybe this cheap guy is exactly what you need to come in here, get you some documentation so you can try to break your lease or do what you need to do. But let's talk about Class 2. You're gonna be looking at around $400 to $950 in mold inspection fees. This is where the majority of mold inspectors will fall, and this is the average mold inspector for your house. These guys are respectable. They have a good amount of knowledge, and they can come in, they could do a thorough inspection. It won't be the most detailed inspection that you can find, but they tend to be a little bit more thorough, more knowledgeable the higher you get in the price range of this category. Although they are knowledgeable and they have some experience, they may not have a specialty. For example, they may be able to come in and talk about a surface level amount of HVAC information, air conditioning, but they don't know it intimately. But that's not what you should expect in this price range. A mold inspector in this class is here to tell you if you have mold, how extensive the mold problem is, and how to remove the mold. They're not really there to tell you the root cause of the problem. For example, they may tell you that you have a mold issue with your air conditioner and that it's due to humidity. But finding out why you have a humidity problem is much trickier to diagnose, probably not in their scope. So let's talk about use case for the Class 2 mold inspector. Well, this is a great choice for most issues out there. You know, if you have a water damage event, such as a water heater leak or an HVAC issue or a kitchen flood, this is the guy that you're probably gonna hire. You know what's going on, but you don't really know what to do about it or what the plan is. Is it affecting the air quality? This is someone that can answer those questions for you. Class 3 mold inspectors, you're looking at around $950 up to $3,000. Now we're getting into expert territory. This is getting exciting. These types of mold inspectors can confidently be called indoor environmental professionals, in other words, IEPs. And this is because they usually have more knowledge than just mold. Now you're talking about getting someone in your house that can understand ventilation, bacteria, chemicals such as volatile organic compounds, combustion gases. They're true experts in the indoor air quality field. Now these types of inspectors will rely on a very thorough visual inspection of your home. I mean, we're talking about spending hours longer at your house than a typical mold inspector. And they're coming with a baseline fundamental knowledge of building science. You know, at this level too, you're starting to step into a niche kind of. I mean, these men and women are specialists at what they do. This is their passion. This is not just some side gig or an additional service to their home inspection company. I mean, this is it. Now in this price range, you might see some more advanced special mold testing such as PCR testing, which is basically DNA testing for mold inside of dust. But keep in mind that they like to, hopefully, rely on the visual inspection of the home. And so if you find some some people in this price range that don't have all those fancy tests, it doesn't disqualify them for being an expert. You know, mold experts at this level, they understand the limitations of testing and they understand that they all have flaws. So you might not see a whole lot of testing at this level because they'd rather rely on the visual inspection. Which leads me to my first disclaimer, and that is there are some inspectors in this price range that are only expensive because they want to sell you on a bunch of tests. They don't rely on the inspection. They may still do a good inspection, but they're gonna do lots of really expensive tests, driving that price up. When you're paying this type of money, you want to pay for the inspection. You want to pay for the expertise in the brain. You don't want to pay for someone that wants to run a bunch of tests. Okay, use case for the Class 3 inspector. They would be great to replace the Class 2 inspector if it's in your budget, but sometimes it's not in our budget, so these professionals are great to rely on if you have more complex issues. If you are sick in your home and nobody can really find out why, to spend that extra money to get some more detail in your house is really important. And because of that extra detail that they possess, you usually have this niche where they're dealing with people that have mold-related illnesses, chemical sensitivities, they're immunocompromised, things where a smaller level of mold could cause health effects, stuff that a normal inspector might not find. But not to say that a normal mold inspector can't help people with those things, but if you do want that extra level of detail, this is usually where you start stepping up your price range. We made it to the Class 4. Now hold on to your wallet because you're expecting to spend around $3,000 or more on this expertise. I mean, you're looking at the pinnacle of expertise. Expect to have someone at your house all day long looking at every aspect of the building. Now this price range is typically reserved for somebody that is a legitimate engineer or an indoor environmental scientist. I mean, these specialists have a deep understanding of building science, mechanical systems, mold growth, and they can walk into a building and they can see things that most people don't notice using science that most people don't understand. Now, typically in this price range, you should expect to get an expert report, expert protocol, and not only a remediation protocol on the mold found, but also a design protocol. So finding the flaws of what's going on and how to fix them and creating a plan of action on redesigning the home, redesigning the mechanical systems. So this is going to be the price range that's reserved for finding the root cause of the issues. These are what we call building forensic engineers, building forensic scientists. And their testing methods are usually highly specialized and highly focused, and everything that they do, every data set that they collect has a purpose. There is no guesswork here. Now keep in mind that these are just generalities and the prices can vary. I've seen Class 2 inspectors bump up to Class 3 because they're adding more samples to their stuff, and I've seen Class 3 inspectors have Class 4 prices because they want to add 20 to 30 samples on their inspection, and that's almost never needed. So trying to find someone that relies on the visual observations of the home is the most important thing that you can do when finding a mold inspector. Now, although I do consider myself a Class 4 inspector, I know I'm awesome, but I have to admit we are a special use case, and so sometimes that Class 2 inspector is all that you need. Hopefully this video helps you out, but if you do want to figure out what type of skills your Class 2 inspector should have, or any inspector should have, you should check out this video because it's really going to help you hone in on who to find to hire.